firstly, to everyone, welcome to the private view for the fifth version of A River Runs Through It. Slightly different this time, obviously online rather than offline. Michael is controlling the screen, so he will be taking us around the exhibition and showing us the works that we're talking about. So if he does linger on his own works a little bit more than usual, you know why. So that's him in charge. So my name is Tabish Khan. I am an art critic. I write for the website Londonist, where I'm the visual arts editor. So it's a website that's very much all about London. So it very much resonates with this exhibition itself. And I also write for a website called Fad Magazine, where I have a weekly top 5. And I'm a trustee of ArtCan, which is a not-for-profit supporting artists. And Michael has described me as the busiest man in London, because I try and get to as many exhibitions as I possibly can, including all the previous iterations of this one, River Runs Through It. So this is the 5th version, and it's an annual event now, an artistic celebration of London by artists who love London and celebrate London and incorporate London into their works. So it's funded and curated by the Urban Soup Collective, which is the collective of the artists who are involved. And in the past, over the last 5 years, with helpful stats here, it has attracted 16,000 visitors, which is very impressive. And last year it had 6,000, which is the biggest year yet. But obviously, we all know what's happening in the world right now, so we can't have 6,000 people filing through a very small gallery space for obvious reasons. And so we're bringing the show to you online, but we're trying to keep it as similar as we can to previous years. So we've got a virtual replica of the Oxo Gallery. So anyone who has been to the Oxo Gallery before will hopefully recognize what they're seeing on their screen right now. And once again, it'll be raising money for London's air ambulance. And we've got some of their members on with us today. We'll be talking to shortly, a wonderful charity. And it is part of the Totally Thames Festival, which celebrates what's happening along the Thames, the history of the Thames, and people inspired by it. So that's essentially what A River Runs Through It is. And today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a wander through the gallery. We're going to have a chat to a few crew members from London's Air Ambulance. We're going to talk to each of the 5 artists for a short overview of their works. And then we're also going to talk about the River Raffle, which is a bunch of prizes that we'll be coming on to shortly. So hopefully we're going to try and whistle through all of that in an hour. It'll be quite a tight hour, but we'll do our best, because I appreciate that not everyone wants to be on a video call for more than 2 hours, say. So a little bit about what else is happening during the run of this event. So the exhibition itself is open. So if you go to the address that you can see on the screen, that will take you to the River Runs Through It online exhibition. And also, if you follow them on Instagram, A River Runs Through It, then you can see what's happening and what's upcoming with the latest events. So some of the events to note, obviously, importantly, the gallery doesn't have opening hours because it's online. You don't have to pay anyone to be there to make sure that, you know, people who want to buy work can buy it. So it is open 24 hours until late Sunday evening. So if you fancy popping by at 3 a.m. and buying work, you can do. That's all up to you. There will be Instagram lives every day on the @A River Runs Through It 2020, which is the Instagram handle, by the very talented artist himself and great speaker Gary Mansfield, who I know personally, and he will be interviewing a different artist every day at 11 a.m. And there will be a few short films on the website as well around London heroes. So we're going to get Pearly Kings and Queens. I think there's one of the London Air Ambulance and a transplant surgeon. There's one of me as well, which I think is stretching the word hero quite a lot. You know, I don't think art critics in any moment in history have ever been considered heroes, but, you know, I'll take the compliment. And we will talk about the River Raffle in a bit. And finally, a bit of shameless self-promotion. There will be a talk on Sunday that I will be doing around London's art history and London's place in art history, which will be light-hearted and fun, an hour-long talk about some of the things that have happened in London, some of the things you can see in London. So that's all of the events happening. If you want to know about them, go to the website, go on Eventbrite, and you can see all the details there. So I think Michael's going to take us for a quick whiz around the gallery so we can have look at a few of the works, including his own. Hopefully he won't linger on them too long. But some of his aluminium works that we can see on the right, and there's even one of the London Air Ambulance on the left. And if we walk a bit further down, sorry, I won't talk so quickly so Michael can keep up. And then we can see on the right there are the raffle prizes as well. So some great artworks and other prizes available that we will be talking about towards the end of the evening. But we can have a quick look at them so you can see if there's any that you'd be interested in going for. The raffle will be £3 a ticket, and you can enter as many times as you want, with the proceeds going towards London's Air Ambulance. So I think that's a quick introduction. If the artists, I think that covers everything that the artist wanted to cover. We can have a look at the rest of the exhibition here. Michael's taken us around the corner, focusing on his own work of the Oxo Tower, unsurprisingly. And as you can see, it very much maps the Oxo Gallery itself. So I think it's time that we would have a word from the charitable partners of this exhibition, which is London's Air Ambulance. So I think, Steve, you're going to go first, and then Lisa can chip in as needed. I think, Steve, would be really helpful for everyone here if you could give a bit of an overview of what London's Air Ambulance is and the fact that it's charity, it's not a part of the NHS, and how it operates. And then we can talk a little bit more in detail about some of the amazing things that you guys do in your day-to-day roles.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for inviting us to come along, and thank you for hosting the art gallery. I came along last year, which was phenomenal. So it's very different. I'm Steve Jones. I'm one of the flight paramedics with London's Air Ambulance. I've been with London's Air Ambulance for the last 20 years. I've been a motorcycle paramedic for the last 33 years for London Ambulance Service. All the paramedics are seconded from London Ambulance Service. So we're paid for by London Ambulance Service, and we're seconded to London's Air Ambulance. And the paramedics work part-time clinical and part-time in the emergency control room. So I've just finished a shift. I started at 7 o'clock this morning. I got out of bed at 4 o'clock this morning, drove into London, and I've sat in the control room listening and hunting out we tend to do about 5 calls a day, and they're all trauma calls. London Ambulance Service taking a region about 5,500 to 6,000 calls every single day, and that's just a normal day. Over the height of COVID, we were hitting 8,000 calls. So we're back to sort of normal levels at the moment, about 6,000 calls. And I've sat there all day, 12 hours. I don't get a break because I'm the only person who can do the job. I will hunt those calls that are pertinent to send an advanced trauma team in a helicopter or by car to anywhere in London. So if you like, we work anywhere within the M25. We can go outside that. We can be asked to go to county services, such as Kent. If you remember the unfortunate stabbing in Reading a few weeks ago, I went out to that. So we'll go out for quite some distance, but our normal remit is within the M25. We are just a trauma service, so we will send an advanced trauma paramedic and an advanced trauma doctor to the scene. And what we do at the side of the road is exactly what you'll get in a hospital. So if you've had some penetrating trauma to your chest and you've got an injury to your heart, we will open your chest and we will fix your heart at the side of the road before even loading onto an ambulance or into the aircraft and then going to a trauma centre. So we're slowing this disease process. We call it a disease process because trauma is a disease. It kills more people under 40 than any other disease, whether it be cancer or anything like that. So it's really prevalent. Over the COVID times, we saw a decline of trauma patients, certainly in the first 3 weeks because people weren't going out. After that time, it's certainly picked up again. Certainly, I've noticed over the last few weeks, penetrating trauma, which is our busiest call we go to, has at least doubled, I'd say. Where we in London, on average, over a year, we'll probably do a shooting once a month. We're doing 2 to 3 a month at the moment, so that's a lot. We're going to, and that's what we do. So during the day, we're in the aircraft. At night, we're in the car, covering exactly the same area, 620 square miles of London, and London's got quite a transient population. So during the day, getting across London in an aircraft is quite easy, but in a car, it can be quite difficult. Like today, for instance, there's a lot of in central London at the moment. There's a lot of protests. Getting through traffic is incredibly difficult. However, because London's getting more and more built up, our landing sites are getting harder and harder to land. We've got quite small aircraft deliberately, and where we land, sometimes we can't land right next to the patient, so we will sometimes have to get a lift from the police to the scene because the demands on the police service, certainly today, our teams have had to run with their medical kit a lot further than we used to, because we've had no police services to pick us up and to get us to see the side of the road.
Just so you can explain for everyone who's not used to how this works, it's really helpful to know kind of how quickly the response takes from the point where you get a call to the point of you turning around, getting in the air, looking for a place to land. It'd be quite good just to walk us through how that works.
Yeah, so when the paramedic in control room identifies a call, they'll press a button on our telephone bank, and that will sound an alarm all around the helipad. So a klaxon will go off all parts of the aircraft, of the helipad. The whole medical team and the pilots will make their way to the aircraft, and we aim to lift within 4 minutes of that button being pressed. So that's doing all of our aviation checks and then lifting. Now, London's the busiest airspace in the world, so there's a lot for us to do in a short period of time, because most of our flights are no more than 6 minutes. The furthest point from Whitechapel to the M25 at the first point will take us 12 minutes to get overhead. That's a long flight. We will always do at least one circuit over the scene, and it'll be a left-hand circuit, so the medical team in the back who sit on the left-hand side of the aircraft will look down, and we'll have an overview of the scene. Then the pilots will find somewhere else to land, and then we'll land. So from the question you asked, how long will it take? Pressing the button to get in to the side of a patient is probably about 14 minutes from that. And these are the sickest patients in London at that time. There is no one sicker than these patients at that time. So it's the ambulance service are also en route or will be on scene, but we're adding an extra layer that the ambulance services are unable to do.
Amazing. That's very impressive. And just for my information, what type of places do you end up landing in? Because I imagine there's not many helipads in London.
No. We land in some really cool places. I'm an aviation geek. I love anything that flies. So the fact I'm doing some medicine and I'm doing aviation is great for me. So we need roughly the size of a tennis court. That's our minimum area we can land in. So schools, stuff like that is perfect for us. Trafalgar Square, we land there quite often. Buckingham Palace, we'll land in there. But basically, anywhere you think you could get a tennis court in, that's where we can land.
Excellent. I mean, I remember I went to school in Sutton, and we had a swimming pool, and someone did hit their head off the side of the swimming pool, and the air ambulance landed in our playground because it was a big rectangle, so you could fit an air ambulance in there quite easily. So, that's amazing. And when you say that there's, I'm guessing it's very sort of severe trauma that wouldn't survive, without getting too gory, Steve, wouldn't survive longer if you didn't have a dispatch an air ambulance.
No, I won't go too much into it. But no, these patients are, as I said, they're the sickest patients in London. They don't have the luxury of the time to get to an emergency department. They haven't got that time, so which is why we're bringing the emergency department to the side of the road, to either their homes or in the street. And that's the beauty of the system that we run.
Excellent. And any particular, once again, without getting too gory, any particular memorable moments working? I appreciate everything's memorable when you're saving lives.
Yeah, I'm not really sure, really. No, all the major incidents that happen in London, we go to. So if you look at Grenfell, I went to Grenfell. 7/7, I went to 4 or 5 sites at that one. Right back to Cannon Street, so in 88, 89. So yeah, anything big that we go to, there's sort of memorable ones that certainly stick in your mind. But it's not just that; it's also the really sad ones as well that you'll go to, and you'll work your hardest to try and save that patient, and their injuries are so severe you can't do that. They're the ones that we take away a little bit. You try not to, but in the end of the day, we're human, and that we don't go to work to do a bad job. We arrive, we go to scene to do as much as we can, and if that doesn't work, it's that's what takes away from it.
Thank you. And how many people have you treated since you started? Then would you say?
Oh, thousands.
Thousands.
Thousands. Yeah, I started in 2000 when I was flying. So I've literally thousands over that period of time.
Wow. And Lisa, I know we've got you on the line as well. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Actually, I was just going to chip in then that since the service's inception in 1989, we've treated over 41,000 patients as a service.
Amazing.
Now, and probably a fair few of those by Steve. I was just going to say how much I like this kind of platform for sort of talking to people rather than standing at the front of the room. So I think so far that's, I like that bit. As on the charity side, sort of from my side, working throughout this, thank you. We're delighted that you've supported us again for a second year, and we really appreciate all the events that I would normally kind of attend in my role have pretty much come to a standstill. So I would probably work with a team like a River Runs Through It maybe 2-3 times a week with different projects and different events and different fundraising activities. And I would say probably I have worked on maybe 6 in the time that we have been locked down. So you can imagine the fundraising impact on that as a charity. When sort of our bucket collections have stopped, our individual fundraisers stopped, the mass participation events like the London Marathon that's been cancelled this year, it has had a massive kind of impact on the charity as a whole, on the charity sector as a whole, not just our charity, obviously, UK wide, worldwide. So I think we've anticipated the fundraising kind of and the income deficit of that is going to be about 5 million over the next 3 years, which is a massive kind of amount to lose, particularly when our sort of strategy and our planning was to replace the aircraft fleet within the next 5 years. So, we need to kind of try to sort of work on, on a strategy to sort of continue those plans, because we have to future-proof the service. The aircraft that we have now will soon sort of be obsolete in terms of being able to replace their parts and keep them in service. So that's something that to continue the service we have to do. So we're very, very grateful to all of you guys that come on and support us, and teams like the River Runs Through It. We can't do what we do. We can't survive. We can't save people without you.
Oh, well, thank you very much for your words, Lisa and Steve, and sharing your experiences. Obviously, this exhibition will do our best to raise as much money as we can through the raffle, the talks, and the donations. It's been really eye-opening to listen to the amazing work that you guys do at London Air Ambulance. And yes, obviously, please do stick around as long as you can. You're welcome to at this private view. And it was really good to hear from you. And I'm sure everyone else who's on this call as well echoes that, even though we've put them on mute. But, they know it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, and if anyone wants to share anything in the comments, you're on mute, but you can chat. So please do let them know how much we appreciate the work they're doing. Amazing. Thank you so much. All right. After that, I think it's time for us to kind of talk about some of the artists we have in the show. They've all drawn straws, and I've been told that Love Jordan is coming up first. Just so you know, Love Jordan are a duo, hence why they're called Love Jordan. It's their surnames put together. They are not a Michael Jordan tribute act. or people obsessed with Air Jordans. But just like Air Jordans themselves, they are a rare gem. So we're going to put them on. Love Jordan. You can see them now. We've got Handily with their own work behind them. Yes. So I thought we should start with, if we were to talk to first about your colours of London, because there are some great stories in these little pigments. And I think it'd be great if you could share some of the stories behind them, why they're named so, where you got them from. That'd be great.
Well, I've lived in London for 33 years. So and you've been how long here? About 15?
13.
13 years.
Yeah.
So we travel around all over London, and as artists, it's quite easy to sort of draw London in a traditional way. And what we've tried to do is buck the trend and create something using just the colours of London. So we've kind of gone really left field. So this is a portrait of London. These are collected colours, evocative colours of London, sealed in bottles and then labelled like paint colours, as if you buy them in the shops. So we've got Gherkin Tip, Black Cab Sheen, Covent Garden Cobblestone, Pigeon Feather, Waterloo Tile. So they're all there to sort of evoke places in London.
And I feel like Pigeon Feather is your take on the famous Farrow and Ball's Elephant's Breath, but I don't know if that's...
Well, funny you should mention that, because this is actually an evolved piece from pieces we actually do called Elephant's Breath, which is mocking Farrow and Ball colours, which is so easy. They have such ridiculous names and just outrageously overpriced. So this is like an evolution of that.
Excellent. Yes. For those who aren't aware, Farrow & Ball is a very high-end paint company, and they do have a pinkish grey, is what I've been told, that's called Elephant's Breath, which is much mocked and also one of their most popular colours. And
Dead Salmon is another one, another famous one. Dead Salmon, yeah.
Nice. Excellent. And would you like to, should we switch slightly to the right, I believe, Michael, to see, because there's another Love Jordan piece just there. And then if you want to talk about your views over London, which are more sort of a traditional view over London compared to the previous work we saw.
Yeah, so this is actually a biro print. And we were trying to capture the sort of awesome sort of viral quality of the city that goes on into infinity. Also, this is sort of it's kind of like a time capsule, because London is changing so rapidly. Most of this is vastly different. Like the Gherkin, for instance, you actually can't see anymore. And of course, the Shard is there. I think that's just off to the right, and we have all sorts of buildings. So yeah, this is where we're trying to get sort of the fullness and the architectural variety sort of mishmashed together, trying to get into one piece. It's really difficult, I think, to achieve. I think we could have gone bigger and got more in there, and just to sort of get the scope. I don't know if you've ever been up the Shard or even Tate Modern has a view that seems to go on to infinity.
Yeah.
So this was from the top of Centre Point when they had the bar up there.
Right.
So this is the view from there, which sort of gets the point across.
Excellent. And if there's any other works, I think we're going to look at your Shard work next, and then Michael, that's a little bit further away, so you're going to have to manoeuvre
right round the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that skill.
He's clearly played enough first-person shoot-'em-up games on PC.
He has.
Don't worry, there's no imps going to jump out at you, Michael, in this game.
So this is a view of the Shard, and this is ink on canvas. And this was drawn 5 years ago. And as you can tell, there's the back of, what is that? That's the cheese grater. And that has actually evolved super quick in the last 5 years. I think there's at least 5 skyscrapers.
Yeah, about 4 or 5. And I think there's more coming as well. So like another 5 years, it will look entirely different again. It's insane.
Yeah, so this is sort of documenting a moment in time. Again, you can't see that the Gherkin at all. I'm sure Michael will indulge you in a story about the Gherkin later on.
We're saving that one. Yeah.
Yeah. I won't spoil it.
Excellent. And then I think you've also got your Oxo Tower, haven't you, in here? Made out of Oxo cubes. Is that in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Michael whizzes around the front.
Yeah. So this is a very meta work of the Oxo Tower being made out of Oxo cubes.
That's right, yeah.
I think it's flat on the floor because we can't do sculptures quite so well in this space, but we get a taste for it here.
Ah, there we go. So yeah, this is Oxo Tower made of Oxo cubes, and we were stunned when we Googled Oxo Tower made of Oxo cubes. It's such an obvious combination that no one had ever done it before. I was stunned, so I thought that's for us. That is definitely.
Yeah.
You get a few weird looks when you clear the supermarkets out of Oxo cubes, and it smells fantastic.
Oh, yeah,
it really smells fantastic. Yeah. And the good people at who make Oxo cubes, they have their own museum, and they were advising us about the lifespan of Oxo cubes, and they were very impressed with it.
So to ask the obvious question, how long does an Oxo cube last, and will this work eventually fall apart?
Well, I mean, in Oxo cubes, there is salt, so that will kill any bacteria. Right. And they have a museum of Oxo cubes that go way back. None of them are specially treated. They're just in a case, and none of them have perished or crumbled. They still keep their form. So they reckon 100 years minimum.
Wow. Well, I look forward to an Oxo Tower made of Oxo cubes outliving us all. But yeah.
Definitely.
on a more sticking with that lighter theme, there is an element of kind of fun in the work that you make, in some of the work that you make, and so I'd be interested to know where you think the place of fun in art is, because I think a lot of people are very art's very cerebral, and you've got to look at an abstract video piece for 30 minutes, scratching your chin, trying to figure out what's going on. While you guys are keeping it quite playful, and it'd be good to know, is that a really important part of your practice? How do people react to that?
Well, I think art is serious for us. It's a serious thing that we do. This is our career, but it's great to inject humour into something. Humour is a great language to transcend all sorts of ages and communicate with people more effectively and easier. I don't really want to be known as a super serious artist. I want to be known for my pieces and to make people smile and enjoy art. I think people are quite frightened sometimes when they go into a big art gallery and everything's sort of so conceptually overwhelming or completely irrelevant. So yeah, we do. We try to keep it light and inject some humour to sort of relate to, just ordinary folk.
Thank you very much, guys. We're now going to move on to meet Susan Bunn. We're going to start with her work near the front, Tower Bridge, which Michael's conveniently already looking at. He's ahead of me.
Hi.
Brilliant.
Hi.
Hey, Susan. So I don't know if you want to give a quick introduction to generally your work while we look at this painting of Tower Bridge, which I always laugh that, if you Google London Bridge, that's the picture that comes up, which is always interesting.
London Bridge is about the most boring bridge in the world, isn't it?
It is very boring, yeah. So if you want to talk a little bit about your practice, and then we'll go on a bit of a tour of your works throughout this exhibition.
Okay, well, obviously I'm a painter. I think I am the only painter in this show this time. So, and my practice, I suppose I'm very representative painter, as you might say. But I like to sort of abstract things and play around with surrealism and do a lot of composition work. I like to think I keep developing, but other people are probably a better judge of that. I keep trying to look for new ways of working and sort of playing around with how I construct a painting and sort of breaking it up and playing with the colours and the lights a lot. So, and recently I've been doing a lot of stuff with sort of abstract and then working in images into it and seeing how that works. So I think it works. Hopefully other people do.
Excellent. No, they are lovely works. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to look at your work Failure to Distance, which I believe was painted over lockdown.
Yeah, that's
if we get Michael over there, because there's a great story to it, so it'd be really good if you could talk a little bit about that work.
Yeah, well, this one. Well, actually, there's. I one of the stories with this is over the lockdown, like a lot of people, I was stuck in, didn't know what to do. I was trying to occupy myself. So I took up this 30 days of art. So I had to produce something, and I woke up every morning to about 6 o'clock to see the latest challenge. And the challenge for this day was about failure. And I think, like all of us, the main thing on your mind was what was going on over the lockdown. And the failure at that time was to get too close to people. And also the interesting thing, in our hour out, or whatever time we could get outside, if we were still able to, when you met people, it was very, very different. You were doing these little dances, you weren't feeling comfortable, and people didn't make eye contact, and it was just a whole other world that it dented, that was so foreign. And so to me at that point, that getting close, and people are deliberately in groups and close together in this, and not doing the socially distanced 2 meters apart. So this was my observation, and just trying to highlight it, really.
Excellent. I think we all experienced something similar to that. I remember being approached by someone asking for directions, and as they take a step closer to me, I take a step away.
Yeah.
So we do this weird thing where it's slowly coming at me, but I'm slowly backing away. So that was fun. Yeah, excellent. No, it does really sum up some of the things that made us angry and frustrated us during lockdown. I think what I'm going to do now is move on to one of your works featuring stags, because there's a few, and it'd be interesting to talk about why that turns up in your work. I think this one's called Staggered. Michael's going to hunt it down for me.
Literally.
Don't shoot it, Michael. Don't shoot it. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I suppose for me, these scenes, it's very much because I spend a lot of time in Richmond Park. I think there's a few of my running friends probably on this today, and we spend a lot of time running around that park and familiarising ourselves with these deers. So it's very, very poignant to me. Now, obviously, this scene is not quite Richmond Park, so the deer comes from Richmond Park, and various trees, I think, are actually from there, but very much my surreal interpretation or play on it. You might guess I've been a fan over the years of Salvador Dali, and this is sort of a homage to his kind of work, so I sort of try to go down that route. If you look at the deer closely, the eyes, I had a real hard time getting this right, because I was sort of trying to do a bit of a Mona Lisa on the deer. So if you actually see this in real life, the deer does look like it's looking at you wherever you stand. So, and I never appreciated how hard getting that exact look in the eyes is until I tried to achieve it. So, but you probably can't tell on this quite so easily, but if you're in a room with it, it does seem to follow you.
And I also want to talk about some of you've got a few paintings with St. Paul's in it. So I was going to go to one, I think it's St. Paul's and the Route Master, which Michael's going to be able to find for me. I'm very impressed that he just knows where to go for each of the works, because I'm completely reliant on him to get me there. Yeah, so I think it's obviously a London icon, 2 London icons in St. Paul's and the Route Master. And it'd just be interesting to get your view on what the challenge is of capturing icons, because they're so familiar to everyone that you have to kind of bring a new take to it every time.
Yeah, I think you find you're trying to find your interpretation of it and put it down in a different way. And I think, like most artists, well, definitely painters, we're never finished. So some of you may have seen a version of this last year, and over lockdown I actually reworked it considerably. It was one of those times where I had time to take stock, step back and go, I'm doing things differently now, and I want to actually make, change a lot of pieces so they are more like the work I'm working on now. So it was a little bit of a gamble actually jumping in and changing this, because it it was very much more simplistic, and I was sort of scraping over and applying extra paint and losing the image, which was a bit of a scary point as an artist, because it can go horribly wrong, and you've already got a lot of hours and time put into these works.
Thank you, Susan. Was there any other works that you particularly wanted to talk about, or any stories within your other works that you want to share with us?
I think another one I'd love to talk about, it's quite a new piece, is my Waterloo Place After the Rain.
Oh, Michael's
there he goes.
He's on it. He's on it. There you go. Found it.
Yeah. Well, I you might be better at saying. I think I've got every London icon in this painting, basically.
Including the tourists.
Yeah. When we had tourists, and the famous London rain, so it's after the rain. But well, for me, this is a point in time. I always love that moment after it's rained heavily, and if the sun comes out, it's just, I don't know, it's quite special. You only get this short period where the light reflects like this, where there's still enough water on the ground, and if the sun hits it, you get these amazing reflections, and I think it's quite special.
And it's beautiful, given that everyone's normally whinging about the rain. So
yeah,
I think I even looked out today and thought it was raining, and I thought, I'm glad I don't have to go anywhere for an exhibition. I can stay indoors. Fine. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Susan. We're now going to move on to Ella, and I'm sorry, Michael, I'm going to ask you to go right to the beginning of the exhibition again to see her work that starts at the beginning. Sounds like I'm at a seance, isn't it? Ella, are you with us?
Hi.
Hey, Ella, I can hear you now. Yeah, so it'd be lovely to see why your unique takes on London's architecture, transforming them into different objects, including this one, and how you come about with these ideas and what takes you there.
Well, originally with the dome, as it was then, I've always thought it looked, potentially like a spaceship. So I really wanted to work that. It's just a very simple design, but to give that element of that it is a metallic piece about to fly away. It was left so sort of unloved for a while after the 2000 millennium when it was there, and I love it. I think I've done it in quite a lot of different colours actually, but always kept the silver grey of the base, but used the antennae in different colours, and it's been quite a popular one, I have to say, but I love it. It's one of my favourites.
Excellent. And you've got a similar one, another surreal take on City Hall, I believe.
Yes.
I've got Michael to hunt this one down for me as well.
Yes, again, I've done that in several other colours. One's up for the Raffle Prize, which is a small one. I know Michael's coming around the corner.
But yeah, if you want to talk about the City Hall and the butterfly, you can see it on the left there in the orange on the Raffle Prize. So
that was, again, this is a smaller version of a bigger one, which actually is in the metal silver colours. But yes, I just played around with images of that. And again, it just was like, well, it's an obvious butterfly. It's just interesting how the buildings we see every day can become and look something else, because I think most of the times when I've shown that at an exhibition, people don't know what it is, first of all, when they look at it, till they actually come close and they can see the actual glass buildings and the desks within that actual space, all just flipped, So I did experiment with that and do quite a lot of different versions, but this one, the orange one, and the other big one in the blue has been popular. Yeah, it's been quite fun to do. I love it because you don't really know what it is until you actually really get up close.
Amazing. And then if we want to, and Michael's found the bigger version. Yeah. Majestic, lovely. And then if we want to talk about sort of your rail and bus tickets and labels works, I think they're on the opposite wall, I think.
Yes, I am obsessed with tickets, mainly bus tickets, railway tickets, from really the 40s and 50s. I just love the fact that those have been used as a destination. People have travelled with them. They are going somewhere. They're all pretty much 95% of them I own are London bound. And yeah, I mean, I've got drawers full of them. I can't stop. I did stop for a while collecting them because I thought it's just getting ridiculous. But there's so many unusual. I love the type. I love the whole way. You know, it's just, we don't have that anymore. You know, we're all on an app or an old, you know, our little cards. There's nothing to show you've been to that destination. My favourite one, Michael, if you can come down on that, is the dog one, which is for a dog ticket that goes to Sloane Square, or from Sloane Square, for the dog. I mean, I didn't ever know that they have a ticket, and they had to be held, you know, not allowed a seat. So I do play on that, and that's been fun. A lot of people get them. I mean, obviously we all love our dogs, so those have been fun to do in lots of different colours. But yeah, I am obsessed with them. It's got
amazing. And is there any other works you'd like us to talk about just before we move on?
I think that's sort of covered mostly of what I do, in between the architectural and the play on all the tickets and stuff. So thank you very much, Tavish.
Well, thank you very much for
Thank
sharing, Ella. So now we are going to move on to who has been my glamorous assistant for the evening, which is the man, the myth, the legend that is Michael Warner. So I think we're gonna start with your work on the Oxo Tower, because that's where we are virtually. And this is like you're experimenting with new materials.
Yes, this is. I'm obsessed with concrete buildings, in particular the brutalist buildings in London. But I wanted to do something on concrete for a long time. I'm trying to do as many different materials as possible. I found a guy called Johnny Concrete on Instagram, and he is a concrete guru, and he's been hiding bespoke River Raffle door stops all over London this week. Some people have found them. And so he made this piece of concrete for me. It's quite thin, it's just a few inches thick. And I've spray painted the outline of the Oxo on there. And then I don't know if you can see these things across the top, like the steel sort of rods that you see popping out of concrete when buildings are being made. They're through the middle of it to strengthen it, and then they act as the hanging device as well.
And then I think we're gonna talk about a building, the BBC Television Centre, which has particular resonance for you and your career, Michael, for those who don't know about your pre-artist days. So it'd be great if you could talk about that.
This one here. Before my days as an artist, I was a TV producer for many years, and working on various shows like How Do They Do That, and some property series and chat shows. And we used to, some of the shows that we recorded were in this building, and it was, I don't know, 25 years ago. So it's got many fond memories and a few panicky memories as well. So I love this building. And then, I don't know if you can see here, these are 1950s and 60s television buttons that I've screwed into the aluminium piece. So I don't know if anybody knows the building. It's got lots of white dots on there. It's very traditional. And then where the white dots are on the wall, I've put a television mod, which they're not tuned in yet, but that's working on that.
Excellent. And as we've seen from your work, there's a lot of work on aluminium. So what's the relevance of aluminium in your work?
It picks out the details. So in a building like this, which has got the BBC one, has got lots of crisscross of the windows, and it's very sort of square here and then around there. It picks out the details of a building very well, like almost like it's etched. It's actually a print, so I do all the colouring digitally first, and then it's a print onto the surface of the aluminium. But what it does do is, I think if I show you, that it makes the colours extra strong and vivid. So this is the National Theatre, another one of my brutalist favourites. And I've done it in so many different colours, so it shows the composition of a building, and the aluminium makes the colours more vivid. Probably a scientific explanation for that, but who knows.
And why have you gone for this more colourful approach on this work?
I've done a few different versions. I've got one which just has the in concrete, if you can see the little one here, with a pink sky, and I've done it in teal as well. But I just wanted to emphasise more of the different components of the building. So I've done it in a series of different colours.
Excellent. And it's great to see your little works as well, which are for those who don't have as much wall space. And we did tease about it earlier, so I think it's only right that we talk about the gherkin in your work, if you're allowed to talk about it.
I've done one or two pieces of the gherkin, but my gallery degree art got a letter from the lawyers of the gherkin asking me not to use the building in my artwork. Because they've trademarked the shape. So I've done one which is in a gold mirror, which is actually in the shop, but they're not actually in the gallery at the moment. Which is in the shop, which is a skyline, and where the gherkin normally is, I've put a shark's head. That edition is almost sold out now, so I must draft them a letter of thanks.
Thank you for suing me, or trying to sue me.
Yes.
Excellent. And before we move on, Michael, was there any other works that you wanted to touch on?
The other thing that is important is there's another Oxo one. This is on metal, but it's more the bright colours. I like very contrasting colours. So this is just a basic outline and super pop art colours. I'm a big fan of the shapes of buildings. If you can tell what a building is just by the shape of it, I think that's a good design. So I tend to pick on the buildings which I love, and this is one of my favourites in London.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing about your work and where the ideas come from, Michael. And now, last but not least, we move on to Emma Reynolds. And we're going to go to the Primrose Hill work. It's part of a sequence of works around North London. So it'd be really great if you could talk about where that comes from. Is that a part of London that's particularly relevant to you, and how that series came about, Emma?
Yeah, it was really, I just started printmaking about a year before, and I wanted to set myself a bit of a challenge. And it was around the time of, I think there was the election going on in America, and there's various things in politics going on, and I wanted to set myself a really big project that could just take over a year and just block everything out. And I was very proud of London, and I kind of wanted to give London a bit of a hug. So I set myself up to do a print a month, and I just moved geographically around London, so it did a whole loop, taking in the south, the east, the north, the west. And each month I just moved forward in time by an hour. So, and this was the Primrose Hill was the second one in the series.
That's the sunrise.
That's the sunrise. So the first one I did was dawn.
Was there a concern that, like, when you went to see it, that you got the wrong cloud cover and you can get?
No. The thing is, when I went down to photograph it, it was a really early morning, and there's frost on the ground. And I just woke up and I just knew it was a perfect day. It was in February. Raced down there with my camera, and all I needed was reference of how the sun came up, how the clouds looked, and the span of the city. And then I take it back to my studio and look at all the photographs, and I compose something that's quite different from what is actually there. In that I move everything around to give it a slightly more epic feel. It's an edition where all the skies are hand painted through the screen. So.
And then you've also got a series of work which actually shares its title with the exhibition, A River Runs Through It. It'd be great to talk about how that came about and what was that based on, what experience.
This one, it's a sequence. I used to work in motion graphics, and I was an animator, so I think in sequences. And me and Michael went out on a river trip at something like 4:30 in the morning. And we basically, because I basically go to places and I experience the light coming up, and that's in all my pieces. They're from me going somewhere and seeing it in dawn or, later on in the day. And we did the river trip, and then on my print bed, I replicated the sunrise in one print session. So all these skies were done in one print session, and I was trying to make the marks reflect the changing sunlight. So all the paintings were done in about an hour of just adding ink. I just kept adding ink into the process so that the yellow was moving up to become like the sunshine, and just trying to capture the essence of what we'd experienced that morning. Yeah, quite a spectacular experience, really. And I'm always looking for the space in a city. So for me, the river, it allows that space. It cuts the city in half, and you just have that sense of space. And to have it completely to yourselves in the morning, it was quite amazing, really.
Made better by Michael's presence, or less so?
Yeah, we had a good time, actually. I hadn't known him that long, and I just rang him up and said, "Do you want to go on the river at 4:30 in the morning?" And he was like, "Yeah, okay."
Excellent. That sounds like a great trip. It does sound like that is the time to see London, based on what you just told us.
I would totally recommend it.
I must apologise. I think at the beginning I said if you've got any questions, because everyone's on mute, put it in the chat. But I don't think I can actually see the chat. Michael can. So, Michael, are there any questions that come through?
People commenting on the different, the variety of artwork in there, and quite a few people commenting on the colours used in Emma's work, almost like cinematic.
Yes, I thought the dark one that you can kind of see almost, you can just see it in the screen, can you? The very one, is it in the left next to Raffle? Is that Emma's? Yeah, so there was something very sort of like sci-fi about that, I thought, because the colour palette.
This was, I think this is 10 o'clock. So each month I had a time that I had to be in a place by. And I actually went down, it was Chelsea Harbour, and I chatted to the guy that owns the tower, or the guy that helps out in the tower that has the Michael Caine residence at the top. I can't remember the name of it. And he let me go up and take all my photographs from up there.
Amazing.
And what had happened was there's been a building, since I'd done my research, there's been a building had come up. So I had to almost take the building out when I recreated it. So this actually exists, but it doesn't exist as a view.
So obviously, before I start to wrap things up for the evening, just want to say a big thank you to all the artists for your contributions. That's been great. I'm sure people have found it really helpful. Thank you very much, guys. I'll do a little applause. No one else can hear you. But before we do wrap up, I think it's important that we do look at the raffle prizes, because we are raising money for London Air Ambulance. So there are some amazing small artworks that the artists have donated, and other prizes. Obviously, Michael's focusing on the artwork. Obviously, that's where he wants his focus to be. But there are other prizes as well, including sort of trips on the river and significant gift vouchers, £250 vouchers. There's one for a haircut and style, which obviously I'm not going to need, so you might as well bid and get it for yourself. So yeah, it's a great raffle prizes. And just to remind you of all the events that are happening afterwards as well, with the 11 a.m. Instagram conversations with Gary Mansfield. I think Gary's actually on.
Hiya. Great evening.
Hello.
Hi, Gary. We just thought it'd be good if you want to give a few words about the Instagram lives that you've got planned for the days coming up.
Yeah, sure. Tomorrow morning I am with Emma. And then it is the next morning, which is, I don't even know which month we're in, let alone which day it is. Yeah, so tomorrow is Emma, then it's Love Jordan, and then Sunday morning is Ella. 11 o'clock every morning, Insta Live. It's just a little 15-minute chat to each artist and just highlighting what you've gone through this evening.
Amazing. No, that'd be really good. So if anyone wants to join in, please do. And obviously, I've got my talk on Sunday as well, so it'd be great to see you there. It is a £5 ticket, but it all goes towards London Air Ambulance. I'm not making any money off it, so I'm just doing it for the love. So it'll be great to see many of you there, so we can help raise more money for London Air Ambulance. Please do enter the raffle. Sorry, Michael, were you about to say something? Sorry.
Yes, no, I was just saying to give the title of the talk, because it's a very entertaining talk, I think.
Yes, the title of the talk is "The Artist Who Ate a Corgi and Other London Art Stories." So if you want to know why an artist ate a corgi, you need to be there so you can find out. And there'll be other great stories, including why there's a Soviet-era tank parked in Bermondsey. So if you want to know all about that, make sure you join me on Sunday. It'll be great to have you there so I can have a talk about this. It will be very light-hearted and fun. You don't need to know anything about art to enjoy it. You can be an art lover or an art novice. So that'll be fantastic. And finally, just to say thank you again. I think they're still on, the London Air Ambulance guys, for their contribution and the amazing work that they do. So I think I'm gonna end it there.
I just want to say thanks to Tabish actually for being involved this year and supporting us so much, and artists in general over the years. It's a tough world, especially at the moment for artists work-wise, and so we're always grateful for the support, and thank you for hosting tonight. And there's a few people written messages to thank you for your talk as well tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, guys. It's lovely to see you all here. Hopefully you will visit this show. It's all open for a bit more, and hopefully at some point we'll be able to see each other in person. But until then, let's enjoy these artworks, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.
I was just going to ask you that, actually. Did you record?
I hope I did.